I want to teach you how to do a sync bench press. The bench press is a compound movement. It's gonna work your entire body and not just your chest.
Alba Boström from Sweden, 133.5 kilos, her third world record. And there it is.
Come on, let's fight, come on.
She is fighting to lock it out and manages to do so.
The 2024 edition from Sweden, Alba Boström.
Ohio, gozaimashita. Welcome to another YouTube video. It's gonna be a bit different because it's not really gonna be a vlog. Instead, I want to teach you how to do a sync bench press. I have a deal of the week. It's an easier session today, so I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to try and teach you guys how you can approach your bench press, both with like warm-ups, how to choose the weight for the day, but of course the technique. As you know, I have a sync bench press style, meaning I sink the bar into my chest. Why I do this specifically for those of you who are not into powerlifting is because in powerlifting, your elbow has to reach the middle of your shoulder pretty much. So you have to almost get parallel, something like this, to hit bench depth and get a good lift in competition. So I sink, I'm very mobile. I get a high arch even if I don't try to, in order to get that depth and still be able to maintain tightness so that I can stay strong, because when I try to get tight, I actually get up in a high arch, which you do not have to, I promise you, so you don't have to worry, you don't have to bend your back like me. I will teach you the fundamentals of a bench press, but that is why I sink the bar. And there are a lot of people who may want to do this, wondering why, so I will teach you the bench fundamentals that you can use, even if you do not sink, but also how I think about sinking the bar. I think a lot of people will see someone sink the bench press and they think that you're just relaxing your body, because previously the background to sinking bench presses is a little bit like, we believe that it's only bigger persons in the higher weight classes in powerlifting that do it. You know, they have a lot of mass to sink into, but as a small person, you know, I compete in the 63 kilo weight class. I'm roughly around 67 kilos right now, for example. I don't have a lot of mass to sink into, and you know, here my ribs are here, so I can't like, you know, bend my ribs really. I need to make sure I sink a little bit, and I will tell you how to do that if you are a person that want to learn it, but also just want to learn bench press techniques. So stay tuned for that. We're gonna start with warming up, and for that I have videos on this on my YouTube channel previously. I also have videos on this on my Instagram, so I won't go into depth, but I will be doing a circuit of lat pull downs. I'm gonna do 6 reps with a pause at my shin, really focusing on pulling my shoulders down and engaging my lower traps. So I'm not doing the lat pull downs for my lats. And then I will also do a pull apart, holding a band and pull it apart by putting, I'm gonna take my my little finger and I'm gonna pull it down as I go out, because that would allow me to engage my lower traps. So I'm not gonna go up here, because then I'm just gonna use my shoulders. I will go a bit lower, around chest height, and go here. I'm gonna do 12 reps of that. So 12 reps of that, 6 reps of the lat pull down, no rest in between, and I'm gonna do 3 rounds, like a short circuit. It takes no time at all, but it gets your lower traps and scapula engaged, because we want that later on in the bench press. So I'm gonna do that, and then we'll get right into the bench. Fixed bench hair. A braid is so much better, because then you don't get everything falling out. So the first thing that you really want to do is start with just the bar. This is like a fundamental thing, but you never want to have a really heavy weight and start immediately. Always start with the bar, then you add a little bit of weight all the time until you hit your top set. And what I mean by top set, if you don't know what that means, is just gonna be the heaviest set of the day. Sometimes you will do, let's say you do 3 sets of 8s. So 8 reps for 3 sets. Maybe you do the same weight on all, but it's still gonna be your top set when you get to the first set and decide the weight, unless you have like a program with decided weights for you. But most of the time today, we're gonna use RPE, which is where like a scale from 1 to 10, where you want to stay somewhere where, let's say 10 is max effort and 0 is 0 effort. So you can start with, let's say you want to train at RP 8. You want to feel like you have maybe 2 reps left in the reserve, because it's 2 left until you hit 10, which is max effort. So that's how you can think, but start with the bar and then gradually increase the weight. You do smaller jumps if your PB is lower. Let's say your max is 40 kilos. You do smaller jumps, maybe just 2.5 kilo jumps. If your PB is 100 kilos, maybe you can do 100 or 15 kilo jumps. The further away from your PR you are, you can make bigger jumps, and the closer you are to your PB, the smaller jumps you want to do. And you should do around 5 to 6, maybe 8 warm-up sets, depending on who you are. I usually do like 8 sometimes. So that can really help. Also set the height somewhere. So if you lay down on the bench, I've done multiple technique videos on the lift off, but basically if you lay down, you see now that I grip, my elbow is bent. It's not like it bent down here, because then, you know, if I go from here and I'm gonna go to straight arms, it's gonna be a long range of motion. And if my arms would be straight, then I would have to do this with my shoulders to get up, and then they're gonna fall out, and here I'm not gonna have any tension if I just lay flat. So set the height somewhere in between. Now you have a ring here on the barbell. Some have 2. If you have 2, I would take your pointer finger or your index finger. If it feels really weird, you can also use your ring finger, but try your index finger first, or your middle finger or your index finger first. Sorry. And I will grip it on the ring, and I won't grip here very loosely in my hand, but I will actually push it down between my thumb and basically my index finger. And then I will push it down, the bar down into the heel of my hand by pushing my elbows out. So it goes a little bit like this in your palm. So you don't want the bar up here, you want it down here. So grip closely, tightly. Once you have that grip, go down on your neck. So this is the setup, and it's gonna be the same for a sync technique bench too. Push down on your neck, push your shoulders down, and how much you get your shoulders down is based on your mobility. And remember, we try to activate the lower traps in the warm-ups, so you want to try to do the same thing. Squeeze your shoulder blades together to maintain that position, and this is gonna be your foundation to the arch that you can have. Now you're just gonna put your feet where you want them. You can start in the middle here, in the middle of the bench, and then you can go out a little bit, go back if you feel like it, play around where it feels good for you. I'm just gonna go out. And now I'm gonna go here, roll down until the bar is around just above my nose. And you see I push my glutes up, and that's just to maintain the shoulder position a little bit rather than being here, because it's gonna make the lift off easy. And now I can just push the bar straight up and forward. Now put your glutes down again, and now you have a setup. I'm gonna squeeze out some air, tighten my legs, tighten my shoulder blades a little bit more, and then breathe in again. And push all that air into my chest, and then lower the bar down and go up. In a normal bench, you would go down here, you just touch your chest and then push up. In a sync bench press, you're gonna go down and allow the bar to sink in a little bit while maintaining tightness in your body. So your entire body should be tight, your legs should be tight. You should just allow the bar to sink. So it's like you sink a little bit in your arms, but you don't relax your glutes like that, because then my glutes are gonna come off once I push up, and I want my glutes in contact all the time. So you see my arch is still there, but the bar is down as far as it can. You can also use air to do this. So when I breathe in, my chest goes up really high, and then as I go down, the air shifts, so it goes down to my tummy, and then I can just press up. If you struggle with this when you do a sync bench press, what you can also do, if you, for example, notice you want to relax your glutes a lot and they shoot up a lot, what you can do is you grip, you do the lift off, and then you do a feet up bench in the warm-ups, which is actually what I'm doing now, and then you sink. Because now it's impossible for your glutes to come up because your legs are in the air. But you can manage that tightness in your upper body while you sink, and get the same movement. And that's the exact same thing you want later on, because a lot of people think that in a sync bench press, you should relax, but you really shouldn't. In a sink bench press, you should be just as tight as if when you're doing a soft touch bench or normal bench press, usually sometimes you think about doing a t-shirt press where you touch the shirt, but the shirt doesn't allow, it's not gonna touch your body, because obviously we have a chest. There's gonna be a little bit of movement, a bit of an area that where the shirt doesn't touch your skin. So if you go down and just touch the shirt, but don't allow the shirt to go down on your skin, that's like a soft touch, and you want the same tension as if you were to do that, but you just go down to your chest and allow it to sink down. And it's really important to train with long pauses when you're training this, so you learn to allow the bar to settle into the sink and then push up using your upper body to press, but stabilizing the entire movement with your legs. And this was my first warm-up. I'm gonna go 40 kilos, 55 kilos, 70 kilos, 85 kilos, 100 kilos. And I'm probably gonna stay at 100 kilos because it's a deload week for me. But so I do like a 40 kilo jump, no, 20 kilo jump, then a 15 kilo jump, 15 kilo jump, 15 kilo jump, 15 kilo jump. And then usually after 100 is like a single, I do another 15 kilo jump, and then like 10 kilo and then 5 kilo jumps, the closer I get to my max. So you can do somewhere in between that, depending on where your max is. Just feel for the day, and you can play around with this. There are also a lot of like warm-up calculators out there if you want to Google it. So that's what I was doing. Today I got 6s. I believe I need to check the program, but I believe I got 6s. So I'm probably gonna do 3 sets or 2 sets of 6s at 100 kilos. That will be pretty easy. We're gonna go over and repeat the technique. Now you got the fundamentals down. We want to repeat that, what I'm thinking about all the time, especially the breathing, because that's a really big part. How to push with the legs. Like I said, I'm gonna do, because I'm doing a sink, I'm gonna do my feet up. Now it's something I started with just a few weeks ago, and it has been helping to keep my butt down, just so that I focus on pressing from my chest like a normal bench press, and you stabilize with legs so you don't relax your legs and then push up using them, because then you're just gonna have, if you compete and use the sink bench press, you're just gonna have a butt lift and you will have no control, and it will be harder to increase your bench. So keep that in mind. I do feel like my hair is gonna fall out. Now I got 55 kilos on, so I did 40 kilos. Another tip for the bench press that I like to use, right now I'm wearing like a vest, but it's wide in the back. And actually I'm gliding a lot, like it's very slippery on the bench. So what I would do is use a tank top with an open back or a sports bra. I'm gonna remove this, so I'll have a sports bra on instead. And that will help you get like a way better, a firmer grip, so it's not slippery, and that will help you maintain your shoulders in position. So that's a key thing. And if you're worrying about, okay, but in powerlifting competitions I have to use a t-shirt and a singlet, so I should use that in training as well, so I'm used to it, because otherwise I'm gonna slip on competitions. Singlets have way better grip when you put shock on them, so if I wear a singlet, I don't notice it at all, like with just a t-shirt, because the singlet is way firmer and grippy. Usually competition bench presses also have way better grip as well, because they're newer than, for example, the bench that you're training on. So for me, I'm never worried about that, and also I'd rather have way better, super good training, and always have good training, and then maybe have to take 2.5 off on my competition day if that would be the case, if it's very slippery, because at least then I've gotten good training on, in a sense, for me at least. So, but if you're just training, you know, tank tops will help. Now I'm gonna do this, what you can do in the warm-ups as well. I'm gonna do 6 reps now. Something I like to do, if you're bad, notice that you're way better at reps than you are at singles. A good tip is to do singles in your warm-up, even from easier weights. Just don't rest for too long between, so you still get warm. Because for powerlifting, if the goal is strength, you do not need a lot of blood flow. In that sense, you don't need a pump. You just want to wake up your nervous system. So by doing singles and doing maybe 2 sets on each weight instead, you will wake up your nervous system, and that will allow you to, so you get up to I do a single at 100 kilos, and then after that I do 6 reps on it. Then you have to know a little bit better which weight you can end up on. But if I do 6s now in the warm-up, I'm getting more work before, so I may be a little bit more tired. I like to do that sometimes I like to do singles in my warm-up. But if you struggle with your singles being a little bit worse than your reps, I would say try doing that in the warm-up, like just warming up with singles, because then you get a lot of practice from the start. But now I'm gonna do 5, and I'm gonna do it with my feet up. Try to listen to my breathing. So you see on each rep, I take a new breath in and I squeeze out air through pursed lips, like psh, during the lift off to empty my lungs but maintain tension, and then I breathe in, and when I do so, my chest goes up, and then I sink the bar, allow it to settle, and then psh, up, and then I take a new breath. Just making sure that I have tension on every single rep, because that's a very important part. 70 kilos, same thing. You see how I grip? Push down on my neck, shoulders down, push my feet up, plant them. That was good. Now the next set I'll do 85 kilos, and for that one, this is gonna be my last set with my feet up in the air. That's why I'm just gonna do 2 reps, because it will get a little bit heavier. I don't want to get too tired for my top sets at 100. And so I'll be doing those just 2 reps, and then I'll go up to 100 kilos, put my feet down, do 6 reps. I will also on the next set put my wrist wraps on. So I use wrist wraps. The reason you can use wrist wraps is if you feel that your wrists get very tired and it hurts a little bit when you're doing bench press, you can use them. I would recommend always to try to do bench press without wrist wraps, unlike the squat, where if you have that pain, it usually is not a strength issue in the squat. If you're doing low bar, it's more so the angle of your wrist. But if you try to grip firmer, try to change your grip a little bit. If you still get pain in the bench press, you can use wrist wraps, but try to not use it and build up the strength. And then if you still feel like you try that and it doesn't get better, then you can use wrist wraps. I always warm up to 85 kilos without them, just to get that practice. I just put them on because I get heavy. I can have some days where I can feel really strong without them, but I'm never gonna be able to feel strong without them every single session, and I don't want to train too much without them, because that would be, each session would feel a bit different, and I want it to always be the same, since the bench press is important to me. That's why I won't do one session without them, one session with, but I'm gonna use them always on the heavier sets. So that's why I'm gonna use that. I'm also gonna use shock on my hands now that I get to 85 to make sure that I don't slide. People may think that you just need the shock, for example, in the deadlift, but it's really good to have in the bench press too, because if I grip really hard and it's heavy, my hand could slide out to the side, and that does affect. If you also feel like the bench is very grippy, you could try having shock on the bench, especially if you wear a t-shirt. But so that's why I'm gonna have shock and put shock on as well for the next set. Okay, so you can see now I put shock on, and as you can see, my hands are super white. So if you use shock, this is how your hands are supposed to look afterwards. So same thing. I'm gonna focus a bit more on my breathing, because I felt like I lacked on that on the previous set. That was very good. So now I'll go up to 100 kilos. Something else that I will be doing when I'm strength training, I will put a timer on for 2 minutes right now, especially since it's my last warm-up in the top set. When I have heavy top sets, I can put a timer for 5 minutes for rest, because it's very hard. The lighter the weight are, the less rest you need. The heavier the weight are, the more rest you will need. But for a warm-up set or 2 warm-up set, resting 2 minutes is really good. It takes about 2 minutes for your creatine to start rebuilding, and your pH values. I think it's called pH values in English too. If I said that wrong, I'm so sorry. But for that to like stabilize after you've done it. So you want to, in strength training and bench press, you want to make sure that each set you really rest and recover. Otherwise, it's just gonna be conditioning, getting your heart rate up. But if you really want to get strong and build muscle, you want to make sure that each and every set you can execute very well. You can execute to a good standard with good technique and everything. And to do that, you want to make sure you rest enough. And when you're resting, you don't really want to do what I'm doing now, talk a lot. You want to sit down, breathe, get your heart rate down, take it easy, and then get ready mentally for the next set. That was my timer. And for the girls that struggle with this hairstyle after bench press, It happens to all of us. Your hair is gonna come out. Having it half up, half down. I used to have too long hair now to be able to do that, but if you have shorter, you can do it. It's the best hairstyle. Can't have it in competition. You have to have your hair completely up in competitions, but that's the best hairstyle if you don't want to like push it off. Because otherwise when you glide on the bench, it can break a little bit if you always have it up. If you have it down, it won't happen. I'm okay with it. I still like to have it up. I have too long hair to have it down anyway, but so it happens. You just have to be okay with looking like this for a while, or reset it after like each set, but that's a pain. Okay, 100 kilos. Now I will put my feet down, keep my feet down into the floor. Focus. So you see how I do the exact same thing. I just allow the bar to sink, but I'm not using my legs too much. The heavier the weight gets, the more I am going to use my legs. And that's why warming up with your feet up, if you have that issue, helps, because then you learn how to sink without relaxing. And then eventually as the weight gets heavier, it's gonna be able to settle a little bit lower because the weight can push you down a little bit. So you want that control as well, so you don't allow it to bully you. But then you could sink in a little bit more in your body, and then it's easier for the glutes to come up. So that's why it's very important in a sink bench press to really train on making sure you have that tightness. Now I'm gonna rest for like 3 minutes. Because it's an easy way, I'm just gonna do 3 minutes. Otherwise, like I said, I would probably have done 5. I'm gonna keep the weight. I realized I just have 3 sets of 6s and 3 sets of 5s and not 6s. So I'll be doing 1 less rep this time. Always check your program before you get started, okay? For these, I felt like I skipped the pauses a little bit. I think Sammy will come in here very soon because he wanted to get his training bag. So I'll actually ask him for press signals if he does come before the next set, because I want to make a little bit more pauses. And that's another tip. If you struggle with making pauses on your chest, always have someone with you that can look at the bar, and when it stops on your chest, they can tell you press. Now, if you don't compete in powerlifting, you don't necessarily need to do a pause, but if you want to learn to sink the bar, I would really recommend doing it, because that's gonna allow you to time so you press with your chest, with your arms, and you don't use your legs too much to the point where you lift your butt. You know, you get a sloppy lift, because if you always train with a sloppy lift, it will be harder to get stronger because you're not training and challenging your muscles, your nervous system. It's more so, it's a little bit like you're cheating and you're not getting anything from it. If you allow yourself to take that extra mile, you will actually build more strength. So that's why I would say that's a big thing. So I like doing pauses even for people that I coach that don't compete in powerlifting. I like to give them pause bench presses just to train that strength. But then if you're not competing, you could have more times where you just do touch and go to try and increase the strength a little bit. But it's gonna help you build strength from the bottom if you do a pause. But then it's easier if you have someone that can tell you when you're supposed to press, when bar is paused, so you don't go down and think it's paused and go up a little bit too fast, like I just did. All right, so now I am done. I did not film that last set, but I got Sammy to help me, and I basically just told him, give me ruthless pauses, wait until the bar has been settled and is completely still, and wait until I'm also hitting depth, so my elbows go deep enough. And that helps me to, you know, sink it properly and make sure that it's completely still before, because if you're doing a sink bench press, it can take a little bit longer for the bar to settle and become super still versus when you do a soft touch, and that's something you have to be aware of. I would however, say that in a sync bench press, it's easier to do a long pause because you don't have all the weight in your arms, trying to keep it just on your chest. You allow it to rest a little bit on your chest, keeping it more of the weight in your body and the tension there. So that's a little bit easier. And it's the same if you do like a sync bench press or if you just allow it to settle on your chest and just not try to stay just above it. But either way, that is it for this video. It's a lot of steps, but at the same time, they're quite easy. I will say the fundamental is don't rush it. Because if you rush your setup, if you rush with the breathing, you're not gonna have any tension. And it is okay to do a flat bench press, but if you're just here and you don't have any tension, it will be hard to push a heavy weight up, right? So you want to make sure that you at least retract your scapula, stay tight and offload your shoulders a little bit, and that will definitely help you a lot to be stronger. So it's not about how high of arch you can get, it's about retracting your scapula. If you're very mobile, you have a lot of mobility, like me, you're gonna get into a high arch. And for most people, they're not. And that is okay. Just retract your scapula, make sure you get that right and get the tension. And then you're gonna have power and force to the bar and be able to train it and use more muscles, which is a good thing because the bench press is a compound movement. It's gonna work your entire body and not just your chest. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. So remember to use your entire body, small steps all the time, and don't rush it. I hope this video helped and got you an overview and that it will help you increase your bench press as well. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you're interested in coaching, please click the link below to schedule a free call with me. It's in the description box, and then you get to know all about how the coaching would work and we can see if we're a good fit. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week in the next one.